Did you know that based on the last 50 years of stock market data over the last 12 presidential cycles, if a Republican is president at the end of the 4-year term, the average stock market return is 32.08%. And if instead a Democrat is president at the end of those 4-year terms, the average stock market return is 63.97%. Now, we're going to have a new president in January. So does that mean that this is exactly what's going to happen? No, I don't think so. In fact, I think that the stock market and other assets have the potential to go through the roof. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to explain how I think it's best to invest your money over the next 4 years under this new Trump era. And I'm going to do so from the perspective of someone with their degree in finance and someone who's basically been investing their entire net worth over the last 10 plus years. But before I give you the very detailed answer, I'm going to do something that's a little bit risky here on YouTube, and that's give you the short answer right off the bat. But if you do decide to stick around, I can promise you that not only will you learn a few new things, you'll be much better prepared to invest your money over the next 4 years. So with that said, here's the short answer. Don't change anything. Keep investing in an index tracking fund like the VOO and close your eyes for the next 4 years. And if you do that, you'll probably get at least, say, 32.08% return on your money. Okay, now for the much more detailed and specific answer. As always, my name is Derek, and I got my degree in finance, so you don't have to. Let's get right into it. Okay, so in order to answer this question of how you should invest over the next 4 years, we need to cover 4 main things. 3 of them are Trump-specific policies that he's proposed. And the last one is more so a stance that he's taken on a specific asset. So let's go down the list. The first thing that we need to understand is one of his 3 major policy proposals, and that has to do with deportation. Donald Trump is extremely staunch when it comes to border security and deportation. So when we're looking at this from a financial and investing perspective, the question becomes, how will this affect the companies that we can invest in, and will it affect them positively or negatively? So when you do the research on this issue, you'll quickly find that deportation of immigrants tends to affect agriculture in a very serious way. Because for better or for worse, a lot of these jobs are done by immigrants when it comes to fruit and vegetables and our food supply chain. So if Donald Trump is going to take a staunch stance on this issue, we have to ask ourselves, which companies are going to be affected? And are they going to be affected positively or negatively? Well, perhaps both, because we have to understand that this policy is likely to cause inflation down the food supply chain. So what is that going to do? Companies that are agriculture based or that sell agriculture goods, so grocery stores, Walmart, Amazon, any company that has exposure to agriculture may have to raise its prices as the prices of labor increases as migrants are replaced with U.S. citizens in the supply chain. Those U.S. citizens are bound by U.S. labor laws and minimum wage requirements, which, yes, morally is probably a good thing. But on the flip side, it is going to increase the cost of these goods. So on one side of the coin, companies that sell agricultural goods may have to raise prices. This might diminish demand. But there is another side to the coin, and that is, again, that a lot of Donald Trump's policies are inflationary if they are implemented, which means by the very definition, assets will rise if all else stays the same. So if those companies that sell agricultural goods, instead of losing demand because those goods are necessities, as in food, if instead the demand stays the same, but they have to raise their prices, that means by the very definition of inflation, their stocks will increase because assets are increasing because their profits, if demand stays the same, should theoretically go up as the prices of those goods go up. Now, all in all, this might be the same, but when it comes to the stock market, inflation tends to push the market up, which means that these companies will have a negative and a positive. The negative is increased cost of goods and potentially less demand. But on the flip side, as the presidency continues and goes into the future, if we see that demand does not fall off, then instead this might actually benefit those companies. Okay, let's talk about something else that Trump has proposed, and that is lower taxes. And there's been argument of whether this is going to affect the middle class or the upper class. The point is, when we're looking at it from a financial and investing lens, we have to ask ourselves, how will this affect the stock market and other assets like real estate? Well, if taxes are lowered, whether it be for the upper class, whether it be for the middle class or the lower class or all of them, what this means is that there will be more money in everyone's pockets. Maybe it's just the rich people's pockets, or maybe it's everybody's pockets. The point is, people who have extra money will, yes, splurge, but they will also invest. Which means, especially when it comes to tax breaks on the rich people do not like to leave their money in cash. There will be more money chasing assets like stocks and like real estate. So this alone, tax breaks, should cause, all else being equal, an increase in stock prices across the board. And this is why I said, if you're just going to close your eyes and invest in an ETF, you probably will do fine, because this further demand for the same goods, in this case assets, simple supply and demand, should cause an increase in those assets. But what about real estate? Well, when you look at the data, we are still severely underbuilt when it comes to the real estate market. We're underbuilt by 2 to 3 million homes. So again, if people have more money in their pockets, especially rich people, they're going to want to put that money somewhere. And real estate is an investment for a lot of those people, which means, again, there will be more demand with the same amount of supply. And until we get our supply 2 to 3 million units higher, there's going to be more demand already than supply. And on top of that, if you get a tax break for the middle class in some form or fashion, those people may use the money to buy their first home or to upgrade their homes. So, again, tax breaks are most likely going to be don't get me wrong. I don't like taxes either. I'm just saying, when it comes to an investing analysis, more money in people's pockets may cause inflation. And it may cause inflation in the stock market and in real estate, which are two major assets that people invest in. Okay, now the big one when it comes to Trump's policies, and that is tariffs. Trump loves tariffs. Sometimes he likes targeted tariffs, and sometimes he threatens blanket tariffs. Now, it's yet to be determined if these are negotiating tactics or if they are serious threats that will become a reality. In the past, he has implemented tariffs, and in the past, other countries have retaliated, like China when it comes to soybeans, with tariffs of their own, and it has caused both positive and negative effects on the economy. But again, looking at it from an investing standpoint, what is likely to happen if blanket tariffs, like the ones that were recently proposed on Mexico and on Canada at a rate of 25%, and an additional 10% on top of the tariffs we already have on China, what will happen? Well, this is, by most economists' definitions, inflationary in nature if nothing else changes. So, looking at it from an investing standpoint, how can we use this to our benefit? Well, it might be smart to find American-based companies that are already competitive in the current environment. Because if those companies are already competitive now, guess what's going to happen when their foreign counterparts face a 25% tariff? Those American-based companies are only going to become more competitive. And if they're publicly traded companies, it might be a smart idea to place a bet on them. On top of this, other companies like Walmart or Amazon, who import a significant amount of the things that they sell, Home Depot and Lowe's are some other examples, when those companies have to raise their prices, again, we have to ask ourselves, will demand stay the same or will it decrease? Because if higher prices lead to lower demand, then those companies and their respective stocks might fall. But if those companies sell essential goods that American consumers cannot live without, even if those prices rise, demand might be what's known as inelastic. Inelastic means that regardless of the change in price, the change in demand is not much, as opposed to an elastic good where the change in price dramatically affects demand. A lot of the times, essential goods are inelastic because they are required to live a life. So as time progresses, we'll have to see if those companies like Walmart and Amazon and Home Depot and Lowe's and others that import a lot of goods, if the demand for their products remains the same. If it does, then all else being equal, stocks for those companies should increase simply because they're selling the same amount of goods at a higher price. Or even if demand just drops a little bit, the higher price may counter that, which on their books at the end of the year is going to show higher revenues and higher net incomes simply because prices went up. Okay, now that we've covered 3 major policy proposals by Trump, there's one other thing that I think we need to cover, and that is Trump's stance on cryptocurrency. Trump is pro-Bitcoin, and by association, it means that he'll probably be pro-crypto. And he's gone on record saying this. He's said that he wants the United States to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. He's also gone on record saying that he wants to fire Gary Gensler, who is the head of the SEC and is anti-crypto. So if Trump replaces him with a more crypto-friendly head of the SEC, that's going to be good news for the entire sector. On top of that, when it comes to Bitcoin in specifics, the United States already has the largest Bitcoin reserve out of any country in the world. But there is a bill floating around right now in Congress that wants to allocate $1 trillion over the next 5 years to buy more Bitcoin. On top of that, Trump has said that he wants to hold this Bitcoin for a minimum of 20 years. So what does that do? One, it shows good faith by a major government. But secondly, it removes supply from the circulating supply of Bitcoin because the United States is going to hold it in reserve, which means that the circulating supply out there is less. All of this is good for Bitcoin. And on top of that, by association, it's good for Ethereum. And on top of that, by association again, it's good for the crypto market in general. So while Trump has gone on record primarily when it comes to Bitcoin, if he installs crypto-friendly people, for example, in the SEC, this is probably going to be good news when it comes to crypto in general. Now, does that mean that you should go and invest a ton of money in cryptocurrency? No, it doesn't. It means you should do your own due diligence, and it means that you should invest a small portion if you choose to do so that you can afford to lose. Because cryptocurrency, even Bitcoin, is highly speculative, and it is a brand new, for all intents and purposes, a brand new market. So remember that when investing. Okay, and the one final thing I want to touch on is Tesla and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is buddies with Trump. And while there are reports that their relationship has clashed at times, this hasn't stopped Trump from putting Elon Musk as co-in charge of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And we have to remember that Elon Musk owns a small company known as Tesla. And that company is not very small at all. There have been reports that Elon Musk obviously is going to try and use his relationship with Trump to better the odds for Tesla against their competitors. Some things that have been floated around are getting rid of the $7,500 EV tax credit. If this is done, it will benefit Tesla because a lot of these other companies are only competitive because of this tax credit. When you remove that tax credit from the mix, naturally, demand should shift back to Tesla. And this, of course, is good for Elon Musk, but it's also good for Tesla stock, which has over the last couple of years been beaten up. Does that mean that I'm dumping thousands of dollars into Tesla stock? No, not really, but I am keeping my eye out for it because there might be opportunity and there might be potential if some of these government contracts and government incentives sway in the way of Tesla. Now, for better or for worse, is that good or bad for a government that private citizens who own businesses might have direct influence to a president? Probably not. But this video is not about politics. it is about personal finance and investing. And if we look at it through that lens, we can complain all day, or we can try to use it to our advantage as well. So as we wrap up this video, the two answers become: one, simple answer, don't do anything different. If you are already diversified and you are investing in index tracking funds, you'll probably be fine over the next 4 years, barring a major recession. But secondly, if you want to have a more active stance in your investing, you have to monitor what these 3 major policies that Trump plans on implementing will do, if they are implemented, because we're not sure if he's just bluffing or if he's actually going to implement these. And then we have to look at alternative industries like cryptocurrency and how his friendlier stance may affect them. On top of all that, because his policies are inflationary in nature, we also have to realize that, all else being equal, assets like stocks and real estate might go up anyways. And then we have to look at individual companies like Tesla and others who might benefit directly because of his policies. And I could make this video an hour long, and we could cover the oil industry, we could cover the renewable energy industry, and we can cover how his stances might change the dynamic of this. But in respect for your time, I think this is already a great place to start when it comes to planning out your investment strategy over the next 4 years. If you like personal finance, world economics, and investing broken down simply, you are in the right place, because this is what I love, and I love sharing it with you guys. So if you haven't subscribed already, it would mean the world to me if you did. It helps out the channel tremendously. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.